For more, let's bring in my panel, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer, a retired Marine Corps reservist, and the CEO of KIP, that's a strategic risk management firm, and Tom Rogan, a commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. And Tom, if this Kim Jongun meeting doesn't happen on June 12th, does it happen at all?
Well, I actually wrote a piece today, good to be with you, suggesting that it shouldn't happen, that what's going on here is that the North Koreans, in alignment with the Chinese, are trying to essentially mold Trump into the kind of negotiating partner that they want, which is a partner more akin to South Korean President Moon Jae-in. And so in this sense, I think that President Trump should try and get this summit. He should try and get on the meeting board there and get inspectors into North Korea as quickly as he can, essentially to test North Koreans' willingness to go forwards in terms of a verifiable disarmament process. But if he can't get that, then I think actually it is not worth doing, because it shows the North Koreans really, they know the gambit now. They know the choice between the good deal and the bad deal, economic investment or sanctions and potential military action. And so if they're not willing to play ball with June 12th, then I don't think President Trump should continue to play the game.
Hal, what are your thoughts? Should the meeting happen on June 12th or not at all? Or as to Tom's point, this is a way to call the North Korea's bluff.
Michelle, I think it's more the latter. We have to call their bluff. They threw it out there. They made the initial pitch, if you will, or they opened up the prospect of having this summit. The location has kind of been finalized, and then, of course, they pulled the rug out from the process midway. But I wouldn't be so sure of saying that China suddenly has influenced this or influenced Kim. I have a feeling that this whole discussion between Kim and China has been going on all along, and I think that's one of the reasons the invitation went out in the first place, was because China suggested it. That would be a reasonable expectation. But,
Hal, you did see an attitude change from Kim Jong-un post that secretive China meeting, and this in context of the China-U.S. trade negotiations. You don't think that President Xi Jinping is being a world-class poker player, as President Trump says, and using this North Korean thing as leverage in the trade game?
Oh, I think the president actually pegged it very well. Yes, President Xi is a world-class poker player. He knows exactly how to negotiate this, and I think this is all part of a broader negotiation. And I think the initial invitation would not have been done if China had not acquiesced to it. But then again, it's not happening in isolation. This is not just about what's happening in North Korea. This is what's happening about the region, and the trade negotiation is a part of it. And don't forget, there's a lot of things happening in the South China Sea right now. In fact, they just landed, they started putting bombers at one of the islands that they had expanded out there. So you got to put it all in a sort of a regional context of what's going on. And of course, you can see we're responding. I mean, we put a very advanced cruiser in Yokosuka. So it's not, we're not sitting idle either.
Right. Tom, one of his regime, and here's how President Trump answered that. Let's take a listen.
We will guarantee his safety, and we've talked about that from the beginning. He will be safe. He will be happy. His country will be rich. His country will be hardworking and very prosperous. They're very great people. They're hardworking, great people. Look at what happened with South Korea.
Tom, does that allay Kim Jong-un's Libya model concerns?
I mean, to some degree, but I think that the ultimate point here is what can Kim Jong-un get in terms of, I think that would be an understanding going into the negotiations, that at the final stage you would get a long-term guarantee of that the U.S. would not try and overthrow or influence away from the Kim dynasty in North Korea. But I think the operative point is Kim Jong-un specifically willing to give up the ballistic missile program and basically stop producing nuclear weapons? I don't think he'll give up the existing stockpile of nuclear weapons. That's in a relatively low quantity, and frankly, the Trump administration will probably take that deal. But the question is he willing to do even up to that point? And if he is, then the US, through South Korea, will throw a lot of money at North Korea. But again, I think the question here is twofold. The need to get a summit quickly is because the North Koreans are developing right now behind the scenes the warhead re-entry vehicle, which would complete their missile program. And secondly, because you essentially want to know whether you can get inspectors in. And the summit allows you to say to Kim Jong-un, look, we're prepared to deal with you, but to show your willingness to deal with us, why don't you let in the IAEA in the next week or two? And if Kim does that, maybe we have a game to play here. If he doesn't, then frankly, I think North Korea has been playing us the whole time.
But Tom, you get a real sense that President Trump is offering Kim Jong-un more than an olive branch. It's a golden olive branch, if you will, with the promise of economic development, saying that the U.S. and China and South Korea are all willing to invest. Now, that's a pretty good deal. And he also made a point that in 50 years' time, the world could look back and that Kim Jong-un will be held in great esteem. You got a sense that the president was like speaking directly to Kim Jong-un, saying, this is your moment, you can save your country, and you can gain acclaim. Is that strategy likely to work, do you think?
Well, we won't know until it happens. But I think the operative point is that the North Koreans, obviously, when Kim Jong-un first came into power, he, succeeding his father, he did engage in this kind of slight opening to the world in the kind of Gorbachev sense. But since then, there has been a retrenchment of power. The question is, we do not know. And frankly, I think, again, that's another reason why this summit is a good opportunity, because any exposure you can get to Kim Jong-un allows you to better assess his character, intent, and thus how you should proceed with him. But again, the summit is the critical component to knowing more.
Right. I hear that point. Hal, the president was also asked about the prospect of incremental denuclearization. Tom raised that point. That is something that Pyongyang may be more willing to go for. And President Trump indicated that he wasn't really open to that beyond the logistical or physical constraints that may need to take place over a short period of time. But is a piecemeal deal more feasible than the so-called all-in-one that the president wants? Do you see the U.S. going back on that?
It would be very difficult to negotiate a piecemeal deal. I mean, Kim Jong-un could open up the prospect of allowing inspectors to come in, but the reality is we really want to go in there and make a big change. And within context of this, you have to look at what we just said to the world about the Iran deal. We want substantive change in North Korea. We want them to get rid of the nuclear weapons. We want them to denuclearize across the board. There's a lot of things that have to go into that. And at some point, I think we're going to talk about the ballistic missiles as well.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Tom Rogan from the Washington Examiner, thank you for your time. And Hal, stick around. We want to get your take on some high-powered military weaponry that's coming up on the